Okay, let's talk about amortization. The word amort is a derivative of the meaning to kill off. It literally means to kill off. So amortization is to kill off a payment. So we're going to work through an amortization schedule. We're going to keep it simple for this first one. We're going to make this the compound is going to be yearly, so compounded yearly. We're going to determine the payment, and then we're going to create a formula to figure out the rest of the amortization schedule. There are several ways to go about figuring the amortization schedule. You can use Excel functions to do that, or you can just use some simple math to do that. First, we're going to figure how much will we have to pay if we have a loan that is $500,000 in total, and remember our compounding is yearly, so how big are our yearly payments? We want to also break that up into interest and also principal. And our yearly interest is 5%. Well, we've already got a percent in there, so we don't need to put it in. And we need to do the payment formula to get our payment. So let's start here. Let's go equals PMT for payment. And once you put in the parentheses, if you actually come up here and hit your function button, let me just show you here. Mine's closed now. Let's come back up here. Equals PMT. Let's come up here to the function. If you hit that, once you have your parentheses, it'll bring up the formula builder. And you can also type things in here. I tend to avoid this in a Mac. On a PC, it seems to work better. But the nice thing about opening the formula builder over here is they give you all these explanations down on the side. I'm going to go ahead and just do it the way that I've done it before. That also works for PC. If you type in equals PMT, the parenthesis, and then hit that function button, it'll also open it up for a PC, though the dialog box won't pop up here on your right. I think it pops up as a dialog box here in the middle, but ultimately it's the same thing. Okay, our rate, annual rate of 5%. We don't need to manipulate that. Our periods, it's going to be 8 years. So even though we have 0 here, we don't account for the 0 because that's our very beginning. So we have 8 periods. We're going to go for 8 years. So let's hit 8. And our PV is 500,000. Let's not worry about future value, and type is at the end of each period. So this is our payment, and what we're going to do is we're going to come here and hit equals cell E3, and then what we're going to do is we're going to absolute reference this because it is going to be the same payment every month that we know. Okay, so how do we figure interest? Well, we have the interest rate here. So what we're going to do is hit equals. We can tab or we can arrow over and then hit times. And let's go up to the interest rate. I had a professor once who challenged us to use Excel without taking our hand off the keyboard and going to the mouse or the trackpad and do everything on here. That was in my master's degree at the U. Okay, we do have a problem because that is not right. So are we supposed to take the interest rate of the payment? No, I made a mistake. We need to take the interest rate of the balance. So let's change this up here. We're going to hit erase and we're going to come to balance. Sorry, that's just lack of paying attention to detail. And let's make sure, for our intents and purposes right here, even though that is correct, that we are taking out $77,000 every year, and our balance is indeed negative. Let's not worry about that right now. It just complicates the addition and the subtraction, even though I said that's good to do. Right now I just want you to get the basic principles. Okay, so of our yearly payment, we have the total payment, but $25,000 of that is interest. So how do we find the principal? Simple. Subtraction. We're going to subtract that and we get our principal. Now we take our balance above. So 500 subtract. What do we subtract? The payment, the interest, the principal. Think about that for a second. What do you subtract? Well, the payment's coming from us. The interest is what's going to the lender. And the principal is what's paying down the balance. So we subtract the principal. Let's go over here, subtract that. Okay. Now let's come back to our interest. We want to make sure that our interest is in absolute value because we're going to be dragging this down. This doesn't need to be because it will drag down and it'll change it from B7 and C7 to B8 and C8 and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to drag it down. Now, once I let go, it's going to calculate this, but what I want is in this last cell right here where my cursor is, if that is a dashed line, that equals 0. That's what we want to see. So let's see if we did it right. Okay, we did. So that's what, if we have a dashed line there, if we have it in currency form, it'll be a dash if it's 0. If you have it in a different form, it might show up as 0. But the proper way is to have it in currency form, which is a dash. That means we've done it right. Okay. So if you wanted to figure out how much principal you were paying over just a few of the years, what we want to do is say we just want to know how much we're going to pay in the first 5 years. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, year 1 to 5, principal total, and we're going to come down here. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hit sum, I'm going to cursor over, and then if you hit shift, just a little help there, if you hit shift on your keyboard and then use the arrows to tab down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you can actually use your shift button and the arrow keys to select multiple cells at once. And then I'm going to close off the formula there, hit enter, and that's how much principal we're paying for 5 of the 8 years. What if we're interested in how much interest we're paying over the entire duration of the loan? Okay, so we're going to hit sum. And I'm going to tab up 1, hit shift, and then I'm going to tab up all the way. The other way that you can do this, so say I come up here, I can actually hit command. Oh, I think it's command shift, sorry. If you hit command and did that, it'll take you to the top. But if you hit command shift and then up, it's going to select the whole row for you. So just a quick shortcut. Shortcuts will come in handy for you in life. And it's $118,000. It's amazing how much we pay in interest. Let's go ahead and let's change this up. We are going to not only do cash flow through 8 years, let's change it to 30 years compounded monthly, so 12 times a month. Oh, sorry, let me pause this. Okay, let's pick back up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to take this and drag it down. So let's go down to, if we did 30 times 12, we are 360, I believe. That's how many payment periods you have in a typical mortgage. So 360, oh, you know, we need to go down further. There we go, 360, so cash flow 360. Okay, so what we're going to do now is let's find the typical interest rate of a home. Let's say that that's 4% for someone like us, where we have to do FHA, and so we're a little bit more risk. We're not going to get the prime interest rate of 3.2, which is today's prime interest rate. So that's 3.2 interest rates for those who have perfect credit, zero debt, no payments. I mean, they're just, I mean, they have lines of credit, but they're paying off their balances. I mean, they're just in the perfect scenario. Okay, and the home we want to buy, after we account for our down payment. So the house we see, it's a townhouse. It's here in South Provo. It's $315,000. But after we put our down payment down, we've reduced that by 3.5%. So let's go like this: 315,000. Let's say 500 times 1 subtract 3.5%, so that's 0.035. Okay, and that let's go like this. Let's actually do 3.5% because that might mess things up. Okay, that puts us at 304,000. Sorry, I was guessing it was going to be a little bit lower. So okay, so now that's what we owe after we pay our down payment on the house. That's what we owe the bank. So let's come up here, hit that. Okay, so 304,000. And what we're going to be doing this time around is we need to change up our calculations. So instead of 4% interest a year, we need to account for monthly payments. There we go. So, and then we need to come here and, oh, sorry, folks. I just realized I messed things up. Our payment, we need to figure that out. So, I was going too fast. So, our rate is 4% divided by 12. Our periods are 30 times 12, or we could do 360. And our present value is, and we use this as a reference, so let's just put in 304,457.50, because if we select cell E6, it's going to disappear once we're done with this calculation. Not going to worry about present value, 0 end payments, and then let's go from that. Okay, and then let's come back up here and we're going to just copy that number and we'll bring it down because that's, oh, hold on. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now our payment here, what we're going to do is we're going to take this payment and we're going to drag it all the way down. So just as a reminder, I'm not perfect at everything. I may understand these principles, but we still make mistakes. And again, let's change this. Let's make it positive. That way we're not dealing with a whole bunch of shenanigans. Okay. So now we have our interest and we've accounted for the monthly compounding. Now what we're going to do is let's take a bit out of our cell here. So let's hit escape because we're still there. I want to go here. Okay, so look at this, folks. This is interesting. Look how much principal you pay off the very first month, that payment. Only 438 of 304,000. Nothing. You're paying interest. You're paying a bank so much money, $1,014. But I guess that's the name of the game. So, okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to check this formula since we're taking it from the shorter amortization schedule to a larger one. And we're just going to check. Okay, we have E6, subtract the principal. Okay, and that will give us our number. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and we have the absolute references right, and we're just going to drag this all the way down. Oh, We've gone too far. There we go. And we're going to let that go. And in this case, it doesn't have the dash, which I'm surprised, but it still works the same. It's $0. That means that we've done it right. If we hit $0 on the if the balance is 0 on the very last monthly payment. Okay, and if you get down here and you don't have 0 in this last cell, you've done something wrong. And you need to come back up, and it's probably some calculation that you've done wrong here. My assumption is that the error is going to occur either here in the calculation of interest, or it's going to be in your payment. Okay, so keep that in mind. You want to make sure that you've got these set up correctly, depending on how many periods you have in a year. But if you get down to the very bottom and it is messed up, you know that it stems from here. Okay, so again, we want to know how much. Let's delete that. We want to know how much interest we pay over the lifetime of the loan. So what we're going to do is equals sum, arrow up, and we're going to hit Command Shift, and that's going to take us to the top of the column, which saved us a whole bunch of scrolling time. Oh, I wonder why that opened up that other document. Okay, here we go. It's still here. Hit Enter. Over the lifetime of the loan, we pay 2/3, in essence, 2/3 of the loan in interest, plus more, plus the actual loan. So in total, if you want to, let's go like this. Let's actually figure out how much we are spending. The cost of this loan is $520. So the cost of our house isn't just $304 some odd $1,000. It is, the total cost to us is $523. Now keep that in mind. Okay, let's copy that number. 523,269.60. Let's see if we're able to drop that interest rate. I just want to show you this real quick just to give you an idea. Let's drop this interest rate half a point to 3.5. 3.5. Okay. And let's take the decimals out so we know that we actually, there we go. Look how much less you pay half a point. Let's figure that out. So the difference between the two is just half an interest, half of 1%. So half of a percent of interest is $31,000 over the lifetime of the loan. Often when you generate a loan, you can pay points up front to get a lower interest rate, and sometimes that's anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 to pay down a point. It seems expensive in the moment, but if you plan on holding that house for the lifetime of the loan, you're saving money by paying down points. Or in other words, you're paying down the interest. So keep that in mind as you think about mortgages and real estate. Okay, so that is the periodic. You're going to get different, in your assignment, you're going to get different periodic rates. So really all it is it's the same schedule, but you can just manipulate the cash flows on these so that they match the compounding or the amount of periods that you have per the scenario. There's going to be times too when you're asked to find from a certain cash flow to another cash flow how much principal you have. And so you're going to want to pay attention to that. You're just going to sum up a chunk. Same thing with interest. You're going to sum up a chunk of interest. Another thing the reason why we have you do that is because there's some type of loans that balloon. A typical mortgage payment will be a mortgage for 30 years, but some will have a balloon clause that if something happens, and this happens more often in commercial loans than it does residential, but you'll have a balloon clause that if you underperform, or once you hit a certain time in your loan, you have to pay the remaining balance at that time. So for example, say we had a balloon clause at year 4, so 48. That means if you had a balloon clause at the 48th cash flow, we would have to come up with $283 to satisfy the loan or refinance. If you don't, you go into default. So just a little tidbit to think about as you think about mortgages. And I'm sorry for all the information. I'm just trying to make this as realistic for you as possible so that it clicks, it makes sense. So that is an amortization schedule. Remember, amortization means to kill off, and we have done that with this this amortization schedule because we have 0 on the last and final payment. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me or ask me anything.